Hello, welcome to another Qdrant webinar. My name is Kacper Rukawski. I'm a senior developer advocate at Qdrant, and today we'll be discussing how LLMs can help us to code. And actually, the idea of vibe coding is getting pretty popular nowadays. So I realized many people just try to use it to generate some front-end apps or maybe some simple backends. However, I just wanted to put LLMs to the test and see whether they can also help us to build AI-based applications, retrieval augmented generation to be more specific. And today, I will start with some theoretical background, and at the very end, hopefully within in about 10 minutes, I'm just going to do some live coding session or vibe coding session, and I will try to avoid writing code on my own by any means. So let's see whether LLMs in their current state can generate code that you could hopefully run in production. Probably many of you have seen today's post. Like, there are some folks who created some systems that they launched in prod already, and surprisingly, LLMs have produced code which is just prone to be hijacked quite easily. So since I have some software engineering background, I will definitely try to keep it safe. But let's see how it's gonna end up. And for those of you who have never heard about vibe coding, this is a development approach introduced by Andrej Karpathy, where developers surrender to intuition rather than control. So we leverage AI agents for coding, so they can implement while we developers focus on outcomes. So code is not that important with in vibe coding. We only let the model to write code and just see whether the outcomes are following the primary idea that we had in mind before setting the prompt. Andrej Karpathy actually pushes that to the boundaries. He even avoids writing prompts on his own. He uses some sort of voice control over it, like Whisper. So actually, this is pretty appealing if you could create real applications without even touching your keyboard. And one important thing is that here we don't really control the outputs of the LLMs. We completely trust the suggestions of AI and prioritize results over code comprehension. This might be appealing for less technical people. And today I will be just pretending to be less technical person and try to avoid writing code by any means. But since our time is rather limited, I would love to just fix some issues if I see some obvious ones in the code generated by the LLMs. But still, let's stick to vibe coding, hopefully. And one disclaimer here: I do not promise that this application will ever run at the very end. I did some attempts so far. Some of them were successful, but unfortunately, it's not consistent. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't know how to use these tools properly yet. But I have some opinions on different AI coding agents available out there. And let me just start with introducing some of them with some comments, because obviously I had to select one of the agents for this vibe coding session today. So there is definitely Cursor. And there has been a lot of excitement around it recently, and definitely for good reason. Windsurf is another tool which is somehow similar to Cursor. Both are fantastic IDE integrated tools, and both are built on VS Code. So the promise is that they are able to transform how we code. So instead of writing the code directly, we can just write some request to the LLM. And this, I have to say, this is really cool. But I have to be honest with you, I've had somewhat complicated relationship with tools like Cursor, because for years I've been deeply invested in the JetBrains ecosystem. So PyCharm is my daily driver, and my muscle memory some customizations, workflow are all optimized around this JetBrains tools. And this switching didn't come naturally to me. So I would prefer to stick with the tools which are familiar and the tools that I'm most productive at. One disclaimer here, I even struggled with, because if you use JetBrains, all the files are just auto-saved when you make any changes. But here in VS Code, you just need to do it manually. Probably you can just enable it somewhere. I was just struggling because I just couldn't see my latest changes being done because I just didn't save the files. So that was that hard. There is also GitHub Copilot, which might be an interesting option, and definitely it's an interesting option for me because as an open source contributor, I qualify for the Pro plan at no cost. So this is quite appealing as well, and without any usage limits. So I can leverage the GitHub Copilot capabilities in all my projects. And this is a significant advantage over Cursor or any other IDE-based tools that exist, or at least I know about, because they have some certain usage limits, even in the paid plans. And from a pure economics standpoint, Copilot would be a viable option if it delivered comparable results. However, I quickly realized that Copilot, despite its strengths, it's still fundamentally more like a fancy autocomplete tool than the true coding agent. So it's fine when you just need some suggestions on the code snippet, like inline suggestions, or when you just want to complete functions or generate some boilerplate, but it doesn't have this capability to truly understand broader project context. And actually, even though it internally uses the same LLMs because it's based on OpenAI and Anthropic, it just failed in many cases when I just tried to experiment with it. And on the other hand, if you are a more technical person, as me, like I'm a seasoned developer, I don't necessarily need a thing which is so tightly integrated with my IDE. I could potentially use some terminal-based tools if they provided superior results. And I heard a lot of good feedback about Eider AI, which is an open source terminal-based agent for coding. And well, I had this initial hesitation to try it out, but actually, I think like this is a pretty great tool if you can leave this comfort of graphical interfaces. And I'm generally impressed in its capabilities. So the main difference is that Eider is completely open source, which is a huge benefit for me. Actually, I believe in open source, and it directly works in your Git repository. So it makes some edits in multiple files that you provided. You need to select the files that it is able to edit. There is no auto context discovery yet, at least not in the version that I tried. And you can, of course, interact with it using natural language prompts. And it's quite flexible. You can connect to almost any LLM that exists, even if you just set it up using Ollama, assuming that you have like a GPU that you can use to run some open source models, which is great and probably might be interesting for some organizations that cannot send their code to any cloud provider. And of course, you can also work offline, which is a huge benefit. And that was pretty nice experience with using Eider. However, the main benefit of using some other terminal-based tools like Claude Code was that you can connect them with some external knowledge bases, and Eider does not have this capability. Probably many of you have heard about MCP servers, and we are going to use them today as well. I saw some of your questions were about MCPs. Yeah, Model Context Protocol was invented by Anthropic, and this is supposed to be a standard way of exposing some additional capabilities to the large language models. And after exploring various options, I mean the AI agents for coding, I eventually tried Claude Code, which is an internal tool of Anthropic. It's still in beta preview, so you just need to apply to have access to it. But apparently, it's a pretty interesting choice and pretty flexible. Obviously, it works only with Anthropic's model, but still, Claude 3.5 and 3.7 are thought to be the best models for coding. If you see at the leaderboards, they are usually occupying the first positions there. And this is the tool I would like to use for today's presentation. And what caught my attention about Claude Code is that it supports MCP out of the box, so you can connect it with additional tools around. And for example, in our case, Claude will be able to access some external knowledge bases and extend its context beyond the information you provided in the prompt. And I can definitely run it directly in the terminal, so it doesn't work necessarily inside my JetBrains tools like PyCharm, but well, you can open terminal inside any modern IDE, so that's totally fine. I can still see the files it generates. And one beneficial thing, one great thing about using Claude Code is that it automatically discovers content of your project. So you don't really need to pass any information like please edit files X, Y, and Z. But instead, you can just ask some questions, and the model itself will be just analyzing the structure of the project to select the files which are most relevant to given task, which is actually quite interesting if you do not have much experience in a particular technology or in writing code at all. So in our case, we'll be using Claude Code with Qdrant's MCP server, which will be acting as a knowledge base, because obviously one of the critical problems in real-world development is that we have some organization-specific libraries, frameworks, and coding standards. So we don't want to overwhelm the model and send all the details in every single prompt that we send to the LLM. Obviously, that would also make it way more expensive than it could be. And on the other hand, it could also reduce the amount of information we can from the project itself that we can pass to the system. And MCP server of Qdrant is actually a component that can help you mitigate that issue. This is an open source project implemented by Qdrant team, and the model context protocol is just an open source protocol that creates the standardized way to integrate with LLMs. You can connect it with some data sources or tools. For example, pretty interesting example is to allow the LLM to communicate with Figma. So we can also create designs using natural language prompts, or even just use Whisper to communicate with just your voice. And MCP server Qdrant is actually helpful to integrate with semantic search capabilities of Qdrant. So you can put some additional information. Let's say you are using some custom libraries with specific APIs that the model was never exposed to. Like there is a high risk that it will be just hallucinating some method calls just because it has never seen it. Or maybe you have some theme-specific coding patterns or documentation that is scattered across various sources. Or eventually, maybe you have just implemented so many front-end components that you don't want to create this components every time you just, let's say, generate a button. You would like the system to reuse the previous code snippets, but you don't want to pass all the buttons that you have to every single code. And that's why retrieval augmented generation is also important, not only for creating this final application today, but also to bring this relevant context. So our MCP server actually provides you two separate tools. The first one can just find some code snippets, some documentation, actually anything that you configure it for, because this is pretty flexible, but today we'll be configuring it. So it will be acting as a semantic memory layer that will be retrieving the most relevant code snippets from the past based on our natural language queries. This is pretty useful because we can reuse some existing code. And on the other hand, when we generate some new code, it will be also storing the code snippets that it generated, so we can use them for further reference. And today we'll be configuring Claude Code to use our MCP server. Everything will be running locally except for the LLM. And yeah, let's just review the technology stack. Unfortunately, I'm a developer and I have some specific preferences. So technically, it won't be a fully vibe coding session, but I will definitely set some boundaries. So ultimately, if you aim to write production code, you have to set these boundaries, or you will end up with a stack that you won't know how to maintain. So that's what I'm doing here, and I will be definitely building RAG. So I need Qdrant for semantic search. I also need an embedding model. And there are various options, but I've recently played a lot with static embeddings. And like without further ado, I don't want to describe all the details of static embeddings, but basically they can achieve good results, and they do not require GPUs to run. So I can freely run them on my laptop, and without any worries, that should be efficient enough still. And last but not least, I don't want to just create a terminal app. But I aim for a full stack application with a hopefully nice UI. And that's why I want to use Daisy UI, which is a Tailwind CSS plugin with semantic class names, which is just nice to write. And we can use Daisy UI to write our front-end code faster. And Daisy UI comes with a collection of components, and their documentation is actually LLM friendly. So they provide the LLMs step file with all the components listed, and that makes it really easy to just extract all the code snippets with the corresponding meaning and store it for some further reference when we vibe code the application. So this is how the LLM step file looks like. It contains all the components, some instructions on how to use the library, how to install it, and most importantly, it's about a very specific version of the library. So it's not some deprecated one that our LLM could possibly have been trained on, but it's the latest version, and I definitely want to use the latest version if I create a new app, just to ease the maintenance, because hopefully this app is going to be successful. And this file is pretty long, so I cannot pass it to every single model call, and unless we have like some millions of dollars to spare, but we'll still pay for tokens. So it's better to integrate some inline RAG in our coding agent, so you can just select the most relevant snippets, and the model can just ask questions to retrieve them. And the implementation is open source. Actually, this repository is pretty empty right now because like we are gonna vibe code this application today. And yeah, I will just put the final results, but all the description of how to do that is already there. So if you're interested, you can also check this out. And yeah, without further ado, let's just try to code something. Okay, so here we have the repository. Yeah, let me just make this a little bit bigger. And we have our project here. So basically, it's not empty. I just included the definition of the project. I will be writing a Python app today. So I definitely want to use some specific libraries. Also, I want to use Torch that works on CPU only. So I'm just specifically defining the requirements. You typically do not do that when you vibe code, but I just wanted to make sure that I understand what it produces. Also wanted to use a specific version of Qdrant client, but all the rest is just empty. We only have a README, which describes step by step how we are going to proceed. So basically, our application will be an in-video search for YouTube. So the idea is that when you learn a new skill, YouTube content is pretty great resource for learning. However, the in-depth content is usually pretty long, and sometimes it just assumes that you have no prior knowledge. So perfectly, we should be able to just pass a URL of a YouTube video and then ask questions to retrieve the most relevant parts and just skim the rest. Because if you watch some LLM related content, then you can clearly see that some of these videos are like 3 hours long, and maybe you don't have enough time to watch them all. But here you can just ask questions. Hopefully you can ask questions and see only the parts that you're interested in. So I see it as a very simple application with just 2 views. So first of all, we're gonna have a view in which you can provide a YouTube URL. So the backend will then download the transcription of that video, divide it into 30-second chunks, 30-second long chunks, and there will be like 10 seconds overlap. So that hopefully will keep the meaning of a particular part of that video. We are gonna create embeddings with sentence transformers using this model that I want to, and then eventually store them in Qdrant. So that will be like an ingestion pipeline from the raw data source till the very end, until the embeddings are created. And the second view will be just displaying the video, and there will be also a transcription with timestamps, so you can jump to specific parts of the recording. There will also be a search bar, so you can filter the content based on the semantic meaning. That's what Qdrant will be used for. And when we submit a query, backend will return the most relevant parts of the video or segments, and then these results will appear as clickable links. So all the rest of the timestamps, all the rest of the transcription should be just hidden. That's just the how I see it. And of course, if someone has already passed the same URL, I just don't want to process that video back again. I just want to use the previous recordings that we had along with the embeddings. When it comes to the technology stack, Qdrant, sentence transformers, fast API, pretty standard stack, and Daisy UI. I don't want to create a React application or use any modern JavaScript framework like Next.js, Vue, or whatever else. I just want pure HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. That's going to be a very simple app, so there is no point in making it more complicated. We still need to create a backend. And let's start with setting up the MCP server. So it will expose 2 tools, and each tool might be configured. Each tool can get a custom description. So this description lets the model know what's the purpose of this tool and how to call it. So we have a find tool and store tool, and we can define the role of each of them by providing natural language like description. So the find tool should be always used before generating any front-end code. We are just gonna store this Daisy UI components in Qdrant, and we want the find tool to call Qdrant to see whether we already had some similar code snippets. And hopefully this is gonna provide us with some relevant components that we can reuse or just adjust for our own needs. So this is the description that worked for me when I use Claude Code. Maybe you would need to adjust it a little bit if you work with some different tools. Cursor and Windsurf also support both support MCP servers, so probably that should be also feasible there. And when it comes to the second tool, store, that should be used to just remember the code that we generate. So it should only store the front-end code we generate. I don't want to store the calls to Qdrant client or the endpoints that we generate in Fast API. It's more about storing the visual layer of the system, and it should always be used when we generate some code. So here it is. Here in the middle, I'm just describing how the call to the server should look like. And right now, we can just add the MCP server to Claude Code. It's as easy as running this simple command. We just need to pass the URL of the Qdrant instance that we are going to use and the collection name that should be used for that, along with the descriptions of both tools. By default, the MCP server of Qdrant should, it was designed to work with Claude Desktop, and it was more like a personal knowledge base. So it was exposed so the LLM could just store some information about the user it interacted with. So that was okay for Claude Desktop, but since we all adopted MCPs for coding, that makes a lot of sense to just change the descriptions so they have different purpose. So let me just code this command and open a terminal. Okay, and this server has been added to Claude, even though I haven't really started the project yet. So right now it should be available. Let me just clearly simply check this. I can just list all the MCP servers, and it's here. So that's fine. So we are gonna build this component knowledge base. So the main idea is that we have a set of components, and I just didn't wanna get through the process of creating them. It's available as Qdrant snapshot, so we can freely import it. And there is a script that actually takes the snapshot, runs Qdrant in the Docker container, waits until it's running, and then uploads the snapshot so we can just use the collection with some data already there. Okay, so it's starting. Let me just try to open the dashboard because it should be running in a second. And we have a single collection with approximately 267 points. This is how each point looks like. So we have some vector. We have an interactive link with transition effect. There is a code block parsed from the LLMs takes of Daisy UI, and all these points are actually about a particular functionality that you can achieve with Daisy UI, which is okay. That's what I wanted to have. And right now, we can start vibe coding the application because we have the Claude MCP configured, and yeah, let's see how it's gonna work. We just need to run Claude. Yeah, let's trust all these files and initialize the project. It will create. Okay, we have some problems with the MCP server. Let me just figure it out later on. Maybe it's just still starting because I'm just using a model that has to be downloaded from Hugging Face. I will just restart it. Right now, it's just trying to generate a Claude file. There are some commands on how to build a project, how to run it, how to link, how to run tests. What are the technologies? That was created out of the README file. So that makes a lot of sense because I just use natural language to define that, and it was able to just extract this information. That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm just gonna accept it. I will be avoiding reading this code at all, but for the very beginning, let's just do it. Okay, and I can just see the connection status. Okay, let me just exit it then, because you can also run it with MCP debug, as far as I remember. Yeah, let me see the status of it. Yeah, it's connected, so that's okay. We are now able to generate that. So how do we start? Well, we do not have much dependencies here, like Fast API is not even listed. So let me just ask it to generate basic structure for a Fast API app with pure HTML frontend and Jinja templates. Yeah, no, I shouldn't know that, but this is a common choice for templates in Fast API and some other Python web frameworks. So let me just cheat a little bit. I know what I want to use. Yeah, and right now the main difference if you use Claude Code is that it automatically scans your repository. So you don't really need to choose which files should be sent to the prompt. It just selects them. Obviously, that makes it also a bit more expensive compared to Cursor or any other alternative out there. Yeah, I want to create this structure. Main file, I'm not really reading it. Let's just vibe code it. Yeah, let's just create all the endpoints it asks us to create. That should be still okay. Yeah, and that takes some time, but that's fine. You should be able to see the results quite soon. And in the meantime, I will be just answering some of the questions, because obviously I will be just clicking enter quite often here, and that doesn't make much sense to just wait until everything is created. Okay, it generates some information about code snippets, which like it doesn't make much sense, but we're gonna fix it soon. Probably just scan the README and the description of how we are gonna implement it. But in the meantime, let me just yeah, you are pretty excited about our MCP. Yeah, definitely, that's a great addition, and hopefully we can prove today that that makes a lot of sense to just implement it when you vibe code your apps. Another question about the MCP server. Okay, in the meantime, we are generating some HTML, which is fine, some styles, even some JavaScript, some search. That's fine. The question was if the MCP server was also vibe code. Not really. Of course, I used some of the coding assistants to do that, but that was never vibe code. Actually, I'm a bit skeptical to vibe coding. If you really want to implement something that's not going to run on your local server, or if you want to create a tool that will be used by multiple people, then vibe coding might generate you code that will be just hard to maintain. And this is actually I see it as a pretty like lost joy of programming, because as an engineer, we love to, as engineers, we really love to solve problems. And if you just read the code generated by somebody else, it's not that funny anymore. So it's like doing the stuff that engineers usually avoid to do. So I like code reviews instead of writing the actual code, because you don't feel like you are solving the problem. But it's okay if you just want to create an MVP, and hopefully our MCP server is not going to be just an MVP, but something that people will be using to create real apps. So thanks for the question. Yeah, we are just generating some code. I will just let it generate some content without even accepting it. That was like the idea behind vibe coding, right? So it reads the file. In the meantime, it should already generate some code. Yeah, we have an application with a pretty standard structure. We have a Qdrant service, which is okay. We'll be accessing Qdrant, not necessarily for code snippets, but we'll be accessing it for searching over the YouTube videos. But yeah, it just read the README and failed a little bit. No. Okay, we do not have RAF installed, but yeah, let me just let it. RAF is just a tool that you can use to format your code. Okay, it couldn't really find RAF because I haven't specified that in project. So as a dev dependency using Poetry, because that's what I use to manage the packages in this project. So let it just install RAF as a dev dependency. That's okay, and then we can run it. Okay, that takes some time. Let's have a look at the structure it created. There is already a main file. Our app will be called Fast Vibe Coding Rag. Yeah, we are letting everyone to access it. Like that's not like a security threat, but actually that's something that we probably avoid in many production scenarios. We are mounting some static files, which is okay. We're definitely going to have some CSS and JavaScript, so that's fine. And templates, that looks pretty standard to me. That's okay. Here it also runs UVcorn. It also applies some formatting to the code, runs linters. So that's pretty nice, because eventually we should at least end up with a pretty well formatted code. It does it quite often, to be honest, but we are just generating a lot of code, and in the next step we are just going to ask specifically to implement a feature. Yeah, let's just run the format and back once again. And here it is. We actually have a backend with course enabled, some API endpoints for code search. We're actually not doing code searching. That is what MCP was supposed to do, but README is more about how we do that. We can just run it that way. So let me just open another tab of the terminal, and hopefully that's gonna work. Okay, we do not have Fast API installed. Let me just see if that was specified. No, we don't have Fast API installed yet. Okay, so it also adds the UV-core, which is HTTP server that we use, Jinja for the templates, so that's okay. And that even tries, no, I don't want to Claude to run that because it's just gonna freeze because that's gonna run forever. Let me just run the app on my own in a separate terminal tab. Yeah, something is being processed right now. Okay, that takes some time, but yeah, we have it. That should be ready in a second. Let me just open this link. Maybe it should be just... Okay, startup completed. Yeah, we can search for code already. Like, I didn't really want to create an app that will be calling the MCP server. That was not the purpose. We actually want the system to accept YouTube links, so that's fine. So let me just ask another, like, and put another prompt. Our app is not intended to run, but it's a smart YouTube viewer or player with semantic search. On top of it, as described in README, please redesign the homepage. URLs. Okay, let's see what's gonna happen. Yeah, there is also another comment. Yeah, if we just vibe coded the MCP server, yeah, it could have been buggy. Still, I don't see it as a perfect tool for writing apps yet. It's still on a junior level. That's totally fine if you just want to experiment with something, but unless you can specifically provide a very detailed description of the feature you want to implement, it can usually hallucinate and generate something that doesn't make much sense. But yeah, let's see. I see it already started using some YouTube transcript API, which is nice because that's a library that can help you to download the transcriptions of some YouTube videos. Yeah, it changes the routing, which is okay. MCP no longer exists here, so that's fine. Yeah, it starts working with some videos, so that's definitely what I wanted to achieve in the first place. Yeah, also, I don't really like the design yet. Still, I can clearly see that these components are just generated, and I wasn't really asked if I allowed to access the MCP server, because if Claude Code decides to call any of the MCP tools, you should be just prompted if you allow to call this tool. Like, it might be just doing something wrong, and you don't wanna, I don't know, book a hotel somewhere on the other side of the globe because of the issue it made. So definitely something is not working yet. It's not using our MCP server, but yeah, let's just fix it pretty soon, because if you work with cursor, you are actually probably you should be also using some cursor rules to define the intended behavior. And here with Claude Code, you have this Claude Markdown file that defines what you allow to do and what are the coding standards that you want the model to take into consideration. In my previous attempts, I was always struggling with accessing the MCP servers. So the solution to that was to specifically define what actions should be performed, yeah, with the MCP integration. Yeah, it reads my mind. Always call Qdrant code search. Is it that how we call this? Oh, yeah, that's not nice because it actually changed the README I created. Let me just revert it. Yeah, just roll back that. So here's the description, and we called it's Qdrant code search. So actually, that's what I'm gonna put in the Claude Markdown description. Always call find tool when you are about to generate front-end code. And front-end, it's HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. Yeah, and that's it. Basically, those additions are just made by Copilot, GitHub Copilot, which I have enabled in my PyCharm. And that's okay. Okay, it's also asking me to install a new dependency, which is okay. There is an error with poetry definition. And yeah, let me just tell you that it's about how I define the target Python version. So this YouTube transcript API actually requires this to be set to below Python 3.14. Right now, it's just trying to install this dependency in a specific version, which is not really what will be solving that. Let me define that on my own. So anything lower than 3.14. No, let me just clear the context again and refresh the app because it definitely made some changes. But this stopped working. No. Okay. It just cannot see this module. Let's just install it once again. I cleared the history of the communication because I didn't want it to put so much context, because right now I will be just implementing a feature at a time. So yeah, I just want to add it using poetry. That's totally fine. And right now it's solved because I specifically set this version to less than 3.14, which is okay. That was installed. And right now that should be working. But yeah, let me just restart it. Maybe that will help, because the reloader didn't catch this up yet. Yeah, so I just restarted the project. That's going to take some time. And let's see how it currently looks like. The site cannot be reached yet, but hopefully it will be running pretty soon. The process is up. Okay, that should work right now. Okay, we already have some examples taken from the README, which is nice. Yeah, let me just... I do not expect it to run yet, but let's see. We have some methods, like process video. Yeah, actually, something has happened. Like, I'm not sure if that's going to work, but let me just copy one of the links. Those are the links to the Andrej Karpathy's videos. Those are also listed here, but let me just add a link. Well, that doesn't work. That didn't even submit the form. Oh, something is wrong here. Like bad response from Qdrant. Like I specifically didn't add Qdrant code snippets here, but I just wanted it to generate the code, because for me it's not that hard to fix anything which is related to Qdrant. So I didn't want to do it, but it seems like it has some issues with the point ID, which in Qdrant might be either UUID or integer. Apparently, it was just using the YouTube video ID, which is like not supposed to be working well. I don't even know where it comes from. So let me just copy the error. I'm receiving lots of this. Yeah, and let's see if that's gonna fix the issue. As you can see, it has like an information about recently processed videos. So I can just open it, but it fails to load the transcription. But this is nice, actually. Like, it doesn't look appealing yet. Like, we are gonna fix the UI pretty soon. But apparently, like, we have a UI that was generated, which is pretty awful. But yeah, let's see how this is gonna work for generating the Daisy UI with MCP enabled finally, because we made these changes to Claude configuration. Okay, it generates something. In the meantime, let me just see if Qdrant is referenced. Yeah, there is Qdrant service, which uses the, it uses the correct model. It connects to localhost, which is nice. The collection name is code snippets. If I now see the collections here, oh, it's video segments. So it's slightly different. Let me see if that was used somewhere. Okay, the collection name is slightly different, but that's also an issue that it used README file in the first place. So when we stored code, we don't want to store code, so that has to be somewhere else. Video service, that might be it. Let's see. Okay. The easiest thing to do right now would be to just see where this collection name comes from. So video service, it's here. There is a Qdrant client, and sure collection exists. That's okay. Embeddings are extracted properly. Extracting video IDs, that seems to be okay. Transcription, I don't know. I don't know this library at all. Maybe it will be just not working at the very end. And when we store the segment, we assert and we use the segment ID, which is, no, it's actually, it doesn't make much sense. The thing is that we don't want to use the segment ID directly. We want to use the UUID because that's the correct point ID in Qdrant. So that's the first change that I made here. Okay, it didn't even, like, here it didn't even fix the issue, but it asked me to use something else, like use UUID. So it doesn't even fix that. I hope this is gonna work right now. So let me just refresh it. I will open the main page. Yeah, so let's just copy another link then. It's been processed. I don't see any errors being displayed in the terminal, so let's see. But basically, the process should be right now running over the transcription of the video and then storing it in Qdrant. Let's see if anything is being kept here. Yeah, actually, that worked. Like, we have over 2,000 points generated. And that's also a huge benefit of using the static embeddings, because we can here generate these embeddings really fast. So yeah, we have some information about the video, about the segment it belongs to, and it actually combines multiple transcription entries into a single string because we don't want to encode a single sentence. That makes a lot of sense to me. Like it sounds like we are able to generate it properly. Yeah. And it was processed successfully, so we can open it. Okay. Yeah, we have an internal server error when we access the transcription. I don't know why. Let's see. I would just copy this information. That's the only thing that I can do if I was a non-technical person. I would just clear the communication. I'm not seeing the transcription on the video view. In the logs, I can see this error. Yeah, let's see if that's going to help. No, it's actually reading the JavaScript, but I definitely need to fix the backend first. So let's see what will be the changes it suggests to do. Still, I can see that the video was properly downloaded. I mean, the transcription of the video. So yeah, hopefully we can fix it with Claude soon. In the meantime, let me just see the endpoints, because I know I promised not to be fixing the issues on my own, but we're not searching segments and video ID. But right now, it's just trying to see the Qdrant client initialization, which is not an issue because we were able to store the data, so it can communicate with Qdrant. No. I don't want to process it any further. Let's just see this API, because here we are accessing the segments and we are getting all the segments. So it's building a filtering condition and scrolling with a limit set to 1000. Okay, let me just do it differently then, because I don't want to waste much time on it, and I can't see the error of like immediately. So the filtering condition looks okay. Like, let me just see the structure of the individual point here. Yeah, there is a video ID. If you see the collection configuration, there is no payload index yet. So okay, let's just run the debugger. Maybe it's gonna help, because honestly I don't see what happened here. That should be working okay to my mind. Okay, so we have this filter, and scroll actually accepts scroll filter, so that the name of the parameter is just simply wrong. So hopefully that's gonna fix it. And the limit, yeah, that should be okay. Like that sounds reasonable. I would definitely add some pagination to this endpoint, because obviously I don't want to load like 3 hours long transcription of the video. That's gonna be plenty of data to be sent, and that's what search is supposed to be used for. But okay, I fixed it. Hopefully the restart should hopefully, yeah, and that works. We have this transcription here with the timestamps. Let's focus, let's see. Okay, when I just click on the timestamp, it doesn't work. So that's what we're gonna fix next. When I click on a stamp, I can't jump to this location in the video. Fix this. Yeah, that was actually the main purpose of that. I just wanted to search over the video content, and apparently it doesn't work. So probably that's something wrong with how we display the video on this site. So yeah, let's see how this is gonna work, and then we are just gonna fix the UI, because I hate it. And today's UI comes with some interesting components, so we should definitely use it instead. Also, I'd love the header link to be clickable, so I can easily go to the main page and process the videos again. But okay, yeah, I see some changes being done directly in the HTML and JavaScript code. So let's see if that's gonna work. There is also some logging, which is nice, because I should finally be able to see the errors in the console. Yeah, some error handling, which is nice. Yeah, let's see. Changes were made. It described all the changes here. Let's see it. Yeah, that works. I can easily click on the specific location. That's okay. I should probably see the video when I click on the transcription, because the video is now hidden, but that's okay. We can fix it soon. Yeah, so let's focus on the UI. I will exit it for the time being. It asks me to exit because there was some change, some update available. Let's see if it's going to be applied. Let's see whether MCP servers are available. I want them to be available. Okay. I guess it may be just taking some more time for our MCP server to start, just because we have this embedding model. Right now it's working, so that's okay. Let's focus on the main page UI. I want you to create another version, or generally on the page UI, not the main page, because some of the components should be reused. Version using Daisy UI. Just to specifically ask to use Qdrant, I just want to make sure it's being used, but it should definitely use Qdrant because of the description I made in Claude configuration. Generate a header and footer with the footer. Header should have a clickable link to return to the main page, and a search bar, because we also want to be able to search over multiple videos. List the recent videos in the footer. Yeah, let's see how this is gonna fix yeah, and right now it specifically asked me to use Qdrant find. I'm not sure if that was the result of specifically asking that in the prompt. Here you can see that it asked for Daisy UI header navbar, which is okay. I will let it ask Qdrant find. I will let it use Qdrant find all the times in that session. And here you can see what was the output. Here we have some entries. So when you ask the model to ask the MCP server to return the Daisy UI header navbar, it actually returns the Daisy UI theme controller integrated with site header. So there is something, a navbar. This is a second. So it actually gets, the default is 10 different results, and then it asks for the footer, which is also nice because it can actually reuse these components, and hopefully this is gonna be done. But yeah, let's see. We have some changes. Right now it's using the semantic class names, which is like the main reason for using Daisy UI instead of pure Tailwind CSS, which is nice. Yeah, I want to make these changes. That sounds really reasonable. So let's see. And yeah, it also includes another JavaScript file, which should be like a mechanism for this general search bar that we are going to display at every single page, so you can search across multiple videos. That's nice. Yeah, let's see. It's vibe coding, right? So I don't really need to look at the code, but hopefully we can have something running pretty soon. Yeah, I would just ask it to list the files all the times. This is pretty nice because that's not supported in all the AI coding assistants, but here, if you know that calling this particular tool is safe, that it's not gonna create any complications later on, you can just allow it to do it all the time. So you don't need to click enter all the times. And finding some relevant code snippets in Qdrant is definitely safe. It's not gonna create any additional burden. So yeah, I just want to make these edits. And yeah, let's see. I will definitely refresh the page when it's done, once it's done, but not yet because it's still generating something. And one interesting thing that you might be also interested in is how expensive it is. So let me just, once we are done with this particular feature, yeah. I will display the cost of creating this feature because we can list that. And here, it's about to use Qdrant store to keep some generated code. So here is how it looks like. It will be, the information is the code. So this is actually some code it generated, probably the whole document. Yeah, let's just keep it. That's totally fine for me. That's like a component that it generated, which is nice because we can then reuse it for some additional purposes. So that's cool. Yeah, and right now our Qdrant collection with snippets should have an additional entry, and that was 267 before. So yeah, that works. Yeah, please just use the store tool all the times when you think it's necessary. Yeah, another code snippet generated. So yeah, here's the description of what was changed. Let's just see the main page. Yeah, it's called vibe coding. We can search for the videos, even change the theme. I didn't ask for that, so that's another thing that we should probably specifically say in the configuration, because I don't want to create any additional features than the ones that I expected it to. Let's just take another video. Maybe I will just use something which is not from Karpathy's, but yeah, we have a pretty interesting video. I hope Jenny won't mind, but this video was about how to use NAN with Qdrant. So this is a full link with some additional parameters. Let me just process it and see whether it is able to download it again. Yeah, it processed successfully. So I can open the video and you can see our video with the transcription below. And now when I click on it works. But what if when I search, how do I install Qdrant? Does the search feature work? Okay, another query. It clearly doesn't work. So there's another server error that we see in the output. Unfortunately, that's something that we cannot solve that easily. But yeah, the main features were implemented. The search results were actually like the search failed. So there is another issue that we need to solve. But we have a footer that we expected it to create, even some logo type, which is not that nice, but still. We did it within half an hour, and hopefully if I could spend another hour, I would be able to fix that soon. Well, I will definitely try to fix that application, and that will be a part of this vibe coding repository. So please expect me to put the changes, and once the recordings are online, you can also see how the application looks like. And the last thing, the cost of creating the feature, that was $50. So it's not that expensive, but yeah, if you have like a pro plan of Cursor or Windsurf, that might be a bit cheaper. That's also a bit different because here with Claude Code, it automatically discovers the content of the repository. So it actually assumes you know nothing about the code structure, or you don't have to know anything about it. But with Cursor, if you just put the important files into the context of the agent, that's probably way easier, and you don't waste that much money. However, for the vibe coding, Claude Code was a really appealing option. And yeah, definitely, I will let you know. I will also provide you with some cost analysis in a follow-up email that we'll send. So you will see if it's really a feasible option to implement such an application with Claude Code and how much it costs. And before we finish, let me just go through the questions that we haven't answered yet. Yeah, experiments, teach things. This is a good one. Doesn't matter what's the output. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not that successful. I mean, like we were able to generate front-end. We could also see that the MCP server was called nicely. So if you work with MCP servers, that can definitely change the game. That might be a game changer for you, because you can implement an inline rack for the code generation as well, not only as a part of your application. And the last question is, does Qdrant payloads index support compound index? Not yet. In Qdrant, you can create an index on a field level, but you can have multiple indexes created, and then the optimizer will select the best index given a specific filtering criteria. So that's how things work. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear. Like, I know the concept of compound indexes, but if you have a very specific use case, please feel free to go to our Discord and describe it carefully. So yeah, maybe we can figure out a way of how to do that, and that might be part of the next release of Qdrant. Yeah, and yeah, hopefully this is it. We run out of time. Thanks a lot for joining today's session, and yeah, I wish you good luck with vibe coding some applications, but please be aware that security is also an important thing. And yeah, at some point you will need to have an engineer who will be fixing the code generated by the LLMs, which might be a bit more expensive than just finding a person who could implement it from the very beginning. Thanks a lot.